So this is an update. I have a bunch of new information about Marianne Akers, 44-year-old Marianne Akers, who had took her black Jeep Wrangler and she drove off the road, drove through a field, drove straight into not a daycare, but a after-school camp, and she hit 3 girls on the outside of the after-school camp, drives through the building, over the basketball court, and then out the other side. And she also killed another girl that was on the inside. 4 girls were killed. 4 girls were killed. This happened April 28th, 2025 at 3:20 p.m. She just got off of work at 3 p.m. This happened in Chatham, Illinois, which is 3 miles away from Springfield, Illinois, the state capital. J.B. Pritzker is the governor. So this picture right here is a picture of Ella Orsi. Now, Ella Orsi is one of the girls who is critically injured. There was 6 girls who were injured, so 4 girls had died, and 6 girls were injured. 2 of the girls have been released out of the hospital, so there's 4 girls who are still injured, and 1 is in critical condition. Which one was in critical condition? Ella Orsi. Ella Orsi was 7 years old, or is 7 years old. Ella Orsi is fighting severe injuries. She had facial fractures. Her jaw was broken. Many of her teeth were knocked out of her face. She's got brain swelling and brain bleeding. So far, they have not had to do any brain surgery, but she will definitely need plastic surgery. So far, Ella Orsi has been responsive, and she can squeeze her parents' hands. So there's still life in Ella Orsi. And if you still have a spark of life inside you, then there's a possibility that you could be on the road to a full recovery. 2 of the other girls' names were Emma and Mia, and I don't know the extent of their injuries. Emma and Mia. So hopefully Emma and Mia and Ella Orsi continue to fight. They continue to fight. Fight to stay alive. So, that's Ella Orsi. Here's another picture of Ella Orsi. And then I have some pictures. Here's the picture of the black Jeep Wrangler. So it is technically an SUV, but a Jeep has a different look than an SUV. This is almost, this is nice, like souped up Jeep. It's not like a basic Jeep. It's not a Hummer, but it's not a basic Jeep either, right? So I just want to be precise with that. I don't know the year of the black Jeep Wrangler because they're saying that there's a black box of information that'll say, the direction, the steering, the speed, a whole bunch of information, that could help determine what had happened, why it happened. So, that's the black Jeep. Here is a picture of Marianne Akers, who was arrested at the scene. And they said that she had a messy hair bun, and then that she was in handcuffs. Now, let's start with Marianne Akers, okay? The name Marianne Akers is what she goes by. She goes by Marianne Akers today, but she had been married to a Michael Morgan. She had filed for divorce from Michael Morgan, and I didn't write down the year, but it was many years ago, and she was a plaintiff for the divorce, which means she filed the divorce from Michael Morgan. And then her maiden name is Marianne Moffat, M-O-F-F-A-T. So this means Marianne Akers was probably also Marianne Morgan, and then her maiden name was Marianne Moffat. Now, she went to Catholic school when she was a youth. She went to a Catholic elementary and a Catholic high school. So let's go through this. I'm just kind of thinking, you hope for the best, but you are prepared for the worst. So let's just go through this information, okay? So I got these notes. She was a school food service worker. So while she did work with the Illinois State Police for 12 years. At the time, currently, they're saying that she works for IDOT, the Illinois Department of Transportation. But she was a school food service worker. She worked for Chatham Elementary School, and she had quit, or she was fired in November 2022. She was also a former cafeteria worker for Glenwood High School in Chatham, Illinois. So she was a cafeteria worker for both Chatham Elementary School and Glenwood High School in Chatham. So when I think about what could be the motive, because we're being told that it was a seizure, we're not being told what had initiated the seizure. Somebody had floated the idea that maybe it was a diabetic seizure. Is she diabetic? Because they said that she's had no history of any seizures whatsoever, which is evidence to say that it wasn't a seizure. You've never had any seizures, but all of a sudden you just had a seizure. And then there was something about maybe she had a seizure at the hospital too. If she had a seizure at the hospital, that kind of proves it. There's witnesses who saw her go through a seizure. That would prove, more conclusively, because only Marianne Akers or Marianne Moffat or Marianne Morgan, only Marianne knows for sure what had happened. Was she ticked off? Was she pissed off? Was it an intentional terrorist attack? Terrorism is when you attack civilians for a political purpose. So it was terroristic, that's for damn sure. Those kids were terrorized. But in terms of the definition for, law and just for communication's sake, it's possible to attack civilians for personal reasons as well. Maybe something was just going on in her life. Her being a school food service worker or a former cafeteria worker could point to a motive as well. Kids are mean. So, you got that Adam Sandler song, Sloppy Joe. Sloppy Joe. She also has 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl. I'm wondering if she has a good relationship with both of them. And since she's Marianne Akers, does she have a husband? Where is Mr. Akers at? Did she have a good relationship with Mr. Morgan? The reason why I ask those questions is because if there was some conversation, she's getting off of work, she gets on a cell phone, and then somebody tells her, something she doesn't like, she could get pissed off. I'll examine the motive later on, because people do things for all sorts of reasons, and even though it seems irrational, it's all human, right? So she had a toxicology report. It came back negative. She was not under the influence of alcohol. She was not under the influence of any drugs whatsoever. I'm wondering if the black Jeep Wrangler had a stick shift. Because if it had a stick shift, then you would have had to have changed gears, right? And it would have stalled. Well, let's see here. So we got that she was a school food service worker for both the elementary school and the Glenwood High School, Chatham, Illinois, Chatham Elementary and Glenwood High School. She was completely uninjured. Marianne Akers, Morgan, Moffat was completely uninjured. When she drove through the building, she drove over the basketball court. One of the girls was inside the building. 3 girls were hit outside of the after-school camp. If it's just a seizure, okay, shit happens, and that's terrifying. But if another motive could be established, that makes this attack even more heinous. Because she didn't just hit the building not giving a damn who was inside the building, but she actually saw the kids that were outside of the building. She had 2 small claims that were against her in 2017 and 2018. I don't know the nature of the small claims. I don't know what 2 people were suing her for. But some small claims were issued against her 2017 and 2018. In 2002, 2003, she had 3 driving offenses. 2 of the driving offenses were for speeding, and then one was for disregarding a stop sign. In 2018, she was also cited for speeding. So, does that give an indication that she likes to drive fast? Okay, liking to drive fast isn't a crime, but that could go to motive, It could go to motive. And how fast was she speeding in those offenses? It'd be nice if they would actually literally write those things down. Sometimes the courts or a police officer will, tack the speeding violation down, 10 miles per hour or so to give the speeder a break. Because technically, speeding doesn't really hurt anybody. It just could hurt somebody. When it comes to a stop sign, you're supposed to come to a complete stop. See, I already talked about her being a plaintiff for the divorce. There was a year that was written, and I'm not for sure exactly when that happened, since she's got 2 teenagers, so that's, 13? So I guess maybe after 2012? I don't have a date, but it seemed like it was a while ago, right? She's Akers now. So she got a divorce from Michael Morgan. She was born Marianne Moffat, but she's now Marianne Akers, so that would indicate that she was married to a Mr. Akers. She went to Catholic school in her youth. She went to an elementary Catholic school and a high school, a Catholic high school as well. So I'm not for sure if that means anything. Catholic schools are known for being oppressive, but also they can, impart a lot of information. If they're being oppressive and the children are, complacent, pliable, malleable, then so she probably is a smart cookie. She probably has a lot of knowledge about lots of different things. She had drove over the football field, which was 100 yards, which is 300 feet. That's the size of a football field, right? So when she drove over they said it was a farmer's field. So she drove over just a regular field, a farm field. But at the very least, they said it was 100 yards, which means she drove. I read that she had traveled a considerable distance off the road and that she was driving super fast. And she didn't make any movements to move her Jeep Wrangler, out of the way. She was driving straight for the building, and she didn't jerk the wheel one way or jerk the wheel another way. I read another place where the travel from off the Walnut Street Road that she was on to the building is 1,300 feet. Well, 1,300 feet is more than 300 feet. That's actually 4 football field links, and it's a quarter mile. So she drove a quarter mile off-road, and just incredible that she drives into that building. Another reason why I'm following up with this case is just the genocide in Gaza. Israel just keeps killing children. They just keep killing the fuck out of fucking Palestine. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born. And I want to fight against the idea that we're just going to allow bodies of children on our screens just go without being answered. We cannot become numb to children being killed because children are innocent. Children are absolutely innocent. What did they do? Even if she had a grievance, against her teenagers or her husband, or maybe as a food service worker, some kid said some crap to her that she didn't like. I can assure you that it wasn't these kids that said anything to her. So she didn't try to drive off the track. She didn't drive left or right. She drove straight into the building. She's driving at a high speed. She drove 1,300 feet off the road. She traveled a considerable distance and then drives straight into the building, through the building, hits the 3 girls outside of the building, hits a girl inside the building, hits 3 other girls, injuring them. Ella Orsi is on, I guess, life support, right? She's in critical condition. She could barely squeeze her parents' hands. Now there is a surveillance video of the Why Not After School Camp, YNOT. That's what they call the after school camp, the Why Not After School Camp. So not only is there a black box of information from the Jeep Wrangler, but there's also surveillance video. Why Not After School Camp has a videotape of the entire ordeal. And heck, if it's got surveillance, then maybe you could actually use technology and focus in on her driving. Maybe you could actually see her. Is she shaking? Is she convulsing? Or is she upright and erect? I'm not sure. The windows, I don't know if the windows are tinted or not. I think the windshield can't be tinted, right? So that means if there's surveillance, then we would see her posture. We would see how she was sitting while she was in the driver's chair. And I don't say release it for any sadistic reasons, but I do know that during the Vietnam era, the images on TV, because the bloody images were broadcasted over TV, that helped to bring about an end to the awful war. Not only was the war in Vietnam, not only did we lose it, but we lost it to begin with because we had no moral high ground. What the hell were we killing a bunch of Vietnamese people for? Because they wanted to be communists? They wanted a different economic system than we did? So they beat us militarily and they beat us morally. And thank goodness we accepted it and walked away. When you're walking down the wrong road, it's never too late to turn around. Now, she still lives in Chatham, Illinois. She has not been arrested or charged. We do need people to donate blood. And now we're going to go and talk about motive. Now we're going to talk about motive. We're going to talk also, people are saying, why should she be arrested? I read something where people are saying, the whole point of the court system is to go after the things that we know for sure. That's actually not true. That's not true. In order to arrest somebody, if anybody knows the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, the Fourth Amendment says you can't arrest anybody. You can't search or seize anybody's, property or their person unless you have probable cause. Unless you have probable cause and a warrant signed by oath or affirmation. They just arrested that judge for an administrative. Some bureaucrat signed a warrant and they arrested the judge over a bureaucrat's, the warrant that they had for the guy was an administrative warrant, which is what? Administrative warrant? So bureaucrats can just issue warrants now? Typically, it's got to be a judge or a magistrate. But the level for arrest is probable cause. You just had a black man in Cincinnati who ran over I want to say probably a white police officer, but I'm not for sure, an elderly police officer in Cincinnati. One man is dead. The black man was in critical condition. His son was killed the day before by the Cincinnati police, and so a lot of people are saying that it was intentional. Well, hell, maybe that was an accident. But that black man has been arrested, and he's facing charges. And when he went into court, there was 30 police officers that were lined in the back of the courtroom. Do we know for sure that was intentional? We don't know for sure. Do we know if she did it intentionally? We don't know for sure one way or another. We know that her lawyer has come out and said that some kind of seizure to some type of degree. Okay, that sounds like that's not a seizure at all. That sounds like you had some weird nervous tic or something. You blanked and, and then apparently Marianne Akers says that she doesn't remember any of it. She doesn't remember any of it. When I saw a seizure, it happened at a gas station. And it was actually kind of crazy because this young woman was just shaking violently, convulsing on the ground. She had fallen over, and so she had hit her head on the concrete, so there was blood that was coming out of her head. and she's shaking, and everybody that was in that gas station was just walking past her, ignoring that the damn thing had happened. Nobody was doing a single thing. And, I yelled out, I want to say this happened in Utah, and I yelled out, "Is there a doctor in the house?" And then eventually a couple people came and started taking care of her, and a doctor just kept petting her head until eventually she came to. So she was shaking, uncontrollably, but she couldn't stand. She couldn't stand up. Her legs gave out from underneath of her, and she's just on the ground shaking. So if you're in a Jeep and you get a seizure and you just start shaking, I don't think you get a stiff leg. I don't think you get a stiff leg. I think you just turn limp and your body just starts shaking. If your body is shaking, well, then you're not holding on to the steering wheel. You're not driving in a straight line. You're also not pushing your, pedal to the metal. You're not pushing on the gas. So, this is probable cause. How do you determine probable cause? So let's see here. Did a crime occur or did not a crime occur? Did a crime occur or not? Well, you got 4 dead bodies. There probably could have been a crime. Is it confirmed? Can you prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? No, not yet. But there's 4 dead bodies. Yeah, I'd say that's probable cause. Well, we don't know for sure if she did it or didn't do it. There's 4 dead bodies. Okay, she's being cooperative for now. She don't even have an ankle monitor, so she could just abscond to Nova Scotia, Timbuktu, Botswana. She's going to go to Tahiti, Fiji. It's going to be in Bolivia. Now you have a big trial right now in Boston, the Karen Reed trial, and she's being accused of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. They were drinking. She backed into him, knocked him out cold, and then he froze to death in the snow. Now she's being accused until, a jury convicts her, until the truth is immutable too. Forever and ever, whatever the truth of this situation is, always stays the truth. In order to get objective justice, you need objective truth. So it's important. It's so vital to know precisely what happened. If it was a medical emergency, then fuck, that's fucking scary. That's terrible. And if you're the parents of the children, then you just have to say, well, shit. Shit happens. What the fuck, That's hard to accept. If I was a parent of a child that somebody just ran my child over, that would be hard to accept. And I wouldn't believe it at first. But just to give her, some due deference, give her some benefit of the doubt, yeah, that'd be terrible. You're driving down the road, at a job, and then you go through this seizure, and the seizure isn't like the one that I saw where the woman loses, feeling in her legs and dropped to the ground and had no control over her arms and her legs, and she's just violently convulsing. Her body is just, just shaking. But this seizure somehow seized her to the point where she just stays at the steering wheel, drives a straight line, a B line, straight, point A to point B, straight line, driving super fast over a field, driving a considerable distance, doesn't try to move left, move right, doesn't try to drive off-road, doesn't try to crash into a thing where nobody would be hurt. To me, I guess I've just seen so much crazy shit that people do a bunch of terrible things, and they do it for a whole bunch of reasons. There was this young woman I knew, Jessica Amber Brierly. And Jessica Amber Brierly, I'd worked at Pilot with her. She went to high school. She actually sung at my graduation. I didn't even know her. And we only had a class of 70 people, which is kind of crazy. But she had once told me, just hanging out at Pilot, that sometimes when she drives home, she doesn't care about what happens to her. She drove stupidly. She drove, terribly, not caring what had happened to her. So I think that would point to a kind of depression. She wasn't happy with life, or maybe somebody said something to her, and so she would drive crazy. So it's kind of a depression thing. And then a person who is suicidal is just one tick away from being homicidal. If you don't care for your own life, well then maybe you don't care for other people's lives as well. And eventually Jessica Amber Brierly is going to get into a car wreck. And she was in the car by herself, and she flipped over and she had died. They said that there were cigarette burns that were on her legs, and that's the only information we were given. But like Marianne Akers, she was by herself in the car, and it was just her. But unlike Marianne Akers, Jessica Brierly didn't hurt anybody, except for herself. Now there's a video. Let's take a look at this video too. I think that'll pull up, where this woman just calls this 5-year-old black kid an N-word. And this is, making traction, and this is a crazy thing. But white woman calls kid N-word. And so what happened here was, apparently right here, they said, she's raised $274,000. She actually raised $500,000. And so what had happened was that she was at the park, and apparently a 5-year-old kid had, took this toddler, right? She's got like a little toddler in her arms. And the 5-year-old kid had tried to take the stuff of the toddler. And so that called, that got her, this woman right here, to call the kid the N-word. Now, I can understand being frustrated. Here we go. Here's the video.
Did you call the child the nigger word? You call him a nigger, the child?
The fuck you talking
Did you
about?
call the child the nigger word?
None of your fucking business.
It is my business. You call him a nigger? Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again?
Fuck you, nigger.
Okay.
Nigger.
Alright, that's what you say.
You don't go digging through people's shit, you dumb fuck.
Nobody dig into your shit.
A little fucking kid just did, you dumbass.
That little kid, you call him a nigger?
Yeah.
The little child?
What does he act like? One is gonna...
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, a nigger, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
That's a hate speech. And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Huh.
Fuck off.
Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you.
Okay, so now I'm thinking that YouTube isn't going to show any of this. Man, I just gone through all this good information. We're supposed to have free speech, and I'm not saying, I'm putting it in context. So I don't know. Do I have to cut it out? Maybe I have to cut this video out. But what we just saw was this, Caucasian woman. This Caucasian woman is, calling a 5-year-old the N-word, and then she's being confronted, apparently by the father or somebody else, about why she had done that, and she is not repentant at all. She isn't feeling sad. She doesn't feel bad for what she did. Here's how I feel about it. James Baldwin said that he always knew that he wasn't the N-word. The person that has the N-word in their heart, on their tongue, they're the N-word. They're the N-word. Whatever they define the N-word as. James Baldwin says he knows that he wasn't the N-word. You're the N-word, baby. And so what she could have done, this racist, Caucasian woman, she could have called the kid a jerk or a criminal. And if she wants to cuss, she could have called him a shithead or an asshole. But I always feel like you don't want an asshole criminal to make a racist or a sexist out of you. Why make it about sex? Why make it about race? If this 5-year-old kid took something from your kid, well, that's a criminal, that could be low life. It could just be a kid just coming across it. Was it finders keepers? Did you leave the stuff and then you were sitting there swinging on the stuff and it was just sitting on the damn bench? And then what was it? A piece of candy? What was it? Some sort of, drink, some sort of And so she was not repentant. She didn't feel bad. Did you just call that 5-year-old, the N-word? She's like sticking her tongue out, la 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 la. She does, basically a bunch of childish crap. And then the man says, do it right now on camera. And then she's like, you stupid N-word. She says it. She says it over and over again. So whether or not she said it before, we know that it's in her heart, it's on her mind, it's on her lips. And then she flips him off. And then she's just walking around, right? She's only $110. She's $110, with the kid in her hand. So that's pretty cocky. Is this what we've wasted our civil liberties on? Is this what the, white America, we've wasted our freedoms so that way this piece of crap can go around making it look like everybody's a bunch of dumb. And then she called him a dumbass too. You dumbass. Yeah, you dumbass. He said, are you chasing him? Are you trying to attack him? And he was like, he stole the stuff from my kid. If he's being an N-word, then I'm going to call him an N-word. Dumbass. So, not only is she, my God, talk about Chaplinsky. Chaplinsky is fighting words. All the guy had to do, Jehovah's Witness, was call the cop a fascist, a racketeer fascist, and that was fighting words. So dropping the N-word, that would be fighting words. And then calling people a dumbass and just talking down to people the way that she was. It made me think of that Bill Burr joke about Palestine or Gaza, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm trying to talk about, what I'm trying to get to is motive. What would the motive be? Why would Marianne Akers, why would she have done what she did? Well, why did this woman do what she did? Okay, she felt wrong. She felt offended. She felt like the 5-year-old kid had took something of hers or her child's, and then calls him the N-word, and then is chasing him and is either attacking him or trying to, get the stuff back. With what's happening in Palestine, we got to fight against the idea of attacking children. Children are completely innocent. They're completely innocent. Did the 5-year-old know for sure that he was taking something that wasn't his? I'm not for sure about that. She clearly was 100% sure about it. So she went ahead and judged him, convicted him beyond a reasonable doubt. Was there probable cause that maybe a crime had occurred? Maybe. Maybe the 5-year-old had done something. And so, okay, get mad at him, say whatever names you want, chase him, get the stuff back. But once you got the stuff back, then, cool it, calm down. You're not allowed to do excessive force. You're not allowed to do excessive anything. So was this a diabetic episode? Is it possible that out of the blue you could have a seizure? Yeah, it's possible. It doesn't seem likely to me. It doesn't seem likely. It just sounds crazy. The thing happened in Vancouver, medical episode. Now this happens, medical episode. Oh, okay. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen frequently. And so you just want me to believe the words? There was this guy that folded... He kidnapped a 60-year-old woman and put her in a tiny little tote box. And the cops are questioning him, and then the cops are like, look at it from our perspective. Well, we go to your house, somebody said you had a woman that was in your house screaming, and we just say, oh, he said it was cool. Well, that's what we're doing with this Marianne Akers. Oh, she says it's cool. Oh, okay, well, shit, she says it's cool. She says it's cool, right? So I don't really believe in a patriarchal or a matriarchal society. I like Maria Montessori's follow the child, let the kids rule, guide them. But I feel like we should bow down to the altar of children. Children are innocent, and we just can't get used to seeing children's, dead bodies and then just shrugging our shoulders after the Second Amendment. Okay, there could be a political agenda for some people. But what about the people that just don't want it to happen anymore? If it was a mental health crisis, then shouldn't we be kinder to one another? Shouldn't we have universal health care so people could get the counseling that they need? So that's all the information that I have so far. Hopefully Ella Orsi, hopefully she gets out of the hospital soon. She didn't deserve any of it, no matter what the reason was. If it was just a crazy ass accident out of nowhere, You know, there's sometimes things fall out of the airplanes. Things fall out of airplanes. Things just fall out of the sky. Lightning strike. You know, a tree could fall down. Acts of God happen all the time. And that's unfortunate, but there's not really much you could do about it. But is there probable cause to arrest her? Definitely. There's definitely probable cause to arrest her for dead bodies. There's 4 kids that are dead. And then I had heard this one time, this is Michael Gonzalez. I think it was Michael Gonzalez. It was in the SLV in Colorado, but they had charged the person with a, I want to say murder. And because they charged the person with murder, then they say, well, due to the extent of the charges, well, we think you're a danger to society now. Now you're a danger to society. So maybe reckless driving, maybe you could put a misdemeanor on her. I would feel more comfortable with an ankle monitor. Because while they're doing this investigation, and clearly they're believing Marianne, they're believing her, but they're not totally believing her. The Illinois State Police chief had said, just like the lawyer said, there was a seizure to some type of degree. Oh, okay, to some type of degree. That sounds like it wasn't a seizure. And then the Illinois State Police had said that there is evidence that's being unearthed that it seems like it was a medical episode. That, again, is not beyond a reasonable doubt. So nothing has been concluded. There's no conclusions. And since we haven't concluded, there is 4 dead bodies. There is plenty of evidence for probable cause. And she knows that, her actions led to the deaths of these children. Had she not got in the car, then the deaths of these children wouldn't have happened. So is it negligent homicide? Is it vehicular homicide? People fall asleep at the wheel and people get arrested for falling asleep. Well, you know what's a possible cause of a seizure? Sleep deprivation. And then the person that said that, well, that's the person's fault. Sleep deprived, they should be arrested. Okay, well, if you're sleep deprived and you went into a seizure because of your sleep deprivation, then you should be arrested as well. There's definitely plenty of probable cause to have her arrested. I hope that she's not going to work. I hope she isn't getting in her car anymore. I hope she isn't getting in her vehicle anymore. I hope she just stays in that house and stays put. If she already lost her shit one fucking time, we're just going to let her do it again? I mean, a lot of people are talking about tough on crime, right? Law and order, tough on crime. Well, you didn't even let her go to jail. She don't even have to bail out. She didn't even, she had handcuffs on. She was being cooperative. She's got a lawyer now, so they'll find some technicality, right? Alec Baldwin killed that fucking Helena Hutchins. Straight up shot her in the face. Did he mean to do it? Maybe it was unintentional. But if he hadn't pointed the gun at her face and pulled the damn trigger, she would still be alive. So he's at least 10%, 20% liable. But it was never brought to a jury. Some fucking sneaky ass lawyer found some bullshit technicality. I'd like to just have a case on the merits. Let's look at the evidence. If she did the damn foul evil deed, then she should be convicted. If she didn't, then she should be acquitted. She should be exonerated. But to give her the keys to a car, I mean, I guess the Jeep is totaled, but is she still going to work? Ugh, it does not sit well with me, because that would be a dangerous individual, because you just killed 4 girls, whether it was an accident or intentional. So that's enough of my presentation. I'm not for sure one way or another, but we as a society will arrest other people for the thinnest of pretenses. Well, there's probable cause. I mean, is it possible that black man in Cincinnati had a medical episode? I mean, heck, in mental breakdown, isn't that a medical episode as well? Just need to have the same standard for everybody.